Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 69. I am Matt Bay, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. And this here is Pika in my lap. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Matt. Sean's at Sean Beatty. Kev's at Kev Lee, the first name believes being a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Let us know what you think of all the topics we talk about in the comments below. Gentlemen, it's been a couple weeks since we have been on the air, so let's start with something that started last week in the Winter Olympics. Have you guys been watching any? Currently, Canada is leading the U.S. women 4-2, I believe. End of the second period. Sean has it on screen somewhere, I believe. So
I haven't turned around in a little bit, but I believe it is 4-2.
Okay, so it's 4-2, second intermission. So this is just group play, so it's not like the gold medal match or anything. But the U.S. women are not looking good against Canada right now, but hopefully they'll bring it back when the medal rounds start. Has either of you been watching any Winter Olympics? I was watching Big Air today for the women. That was pretty cool. I've been watching a good amount of curling, and I've been able to catch some women's hockey as well. I haven't been able to watch bobsled. I'm not sure if that's on yet. And I'd like to watch some skeleton or some luge because that's always exciting to watch. But I've caught a little bit of figure skating as well. Sean, you been watching any Winter Olympics?
That's all I've been watching because I think the ones you talk about missing haven't even started yet. So I think you're good with the bobsled.
Okay, sweet.
Luge is the one that's going, I believe, right now. So out of those, the skeleton and those, so you're good so far. But yes, that's I've been watching. We've been watching some. Who's the U.S. big figure skater? Nathan Chen. Yeah.
Yes, Nathan Chen.
Yeah,
Yes.
the beast. Who missed the Olympics, missed winning gold last time, and then decided to declare war on all of figure skating, and has proceeded to basically win every single tournament since then for 3 years. So, and that's not an exaggeration. He's lost one time in 4 years since he lost. He has declared war on the entire organization, so the entire world, because he's out for blood. So it's been fun to watch. But yeah, that's all I've been watching so far as the Olympics.
Kevin, have you caught any Olympics yet?
Sadly, no. Just been working sadly a little bit too much. So my time has been spent elsewhere. But
dumb.
Yeah.
How could you? Luckily, it started last Friday, so you got about a week and a half of it still going. Plenty of time to catch maybe some speed skating. I watched a little bit of that the other day. Maybe there's men's hockey, I believe, is after the women's tournament, so you can watch that. But looking at it, the Beijing layout, it looks really weird to have like these random patches of snow in a country that really doesn't have any. So it's weird that they're hosting the Winter Olympics, but what are you gonna do? They probably just wanted to host it for the tourism and stuff. But the Winter Olympics is on, so cheer on whatever country you want. If you want to cheer on America, cool. If you want to cheer on another country, it's up to you. It doesn't matter. It's Olympics. Let's just see some good competition. So let's move on to the Seattle Storm. So WNBA free agency started last week, and the Storm brought back their big 3 in signing. Sue Bird announced she was coming back. We already talked about that. But Breanna Stewart signed a max 1-year contract, as well as Jewel Lloyd is coming back as well. So the Seattle Storm had their big 3. They will be back at Climate Pledge Arena this season, and I don't know about you guys, but I am planning to try and make it out to at least one game to watch that trio. Hopefully make a run at a WNBA title in an arena that is going to be rocking with them playing out there. I mean, Kraken games are always fun because, the hometown fans are behind them, even though they haven't had quite as much success. We'll get to that in a little bit, but I think it's going to be a very great atmosphere with the Storm playing and those 3 out there on the floor. Kevin, you excited about Breanna Stewart, Sue Bird, and Jewel Lloyd coming back next season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that she decided not to retire and give it one last run. It gives at least some form of hope for Seattle sports in the upcoming year, other than the Mariners.
If the Mariners play.
If they play. Yeah, that's it. We'll possibly get to that in a little bit. And then I guess the Sounders, but yeah. But no, like I said, it'd be cool to see. I don't know if I'd be able to get up to a game, maybe, but I'll definitely probably try to watch a couple, and hopefully they continue.
Kevin Freeze for you as well.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
okay.
He's back.
He's
There we
back.
But yeah, hopefully they can take it all the way. Just in their last much. So
Sean, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I kind of saying as Kevin. I think I'm glad that they all came back for one more run at it, and I think that is that the expectation is to be legitimate contenders for the season, because as we've seen, Brad Stewart signed a 1-year deal, Sue Bird's on a 1-year deal. The future of the Sounders is up in the air after this year. So this year it's kind of like you're running it back
The
to
last
win
dance.
it. It's the Michael Jordan last dance, and Sue Bird has won more than Michael Jordan. So suck on that one.
Take that, MJ.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully the Seattle Storm will be in full form when they take the floor on Climate Pledge Arena. I believe it's starting in May, but I am not entirely sure. I could bring up their schedule, but we will I'm going to do a quick shout out here. The Seattle Seawolves, the rugby team in Seattle, they begin their season. I believe it might have already started.
It did.
But
It started.
yeah. But I do want to give a shout out to the rugby league, because I have a friend, Zach. I don't know if he's tuning in or not, but he is the athletic trainer for the Dallas Jackals, and they will be up here in May. So I'm hoping to get out to a Seattle Seawolves game as well. So support the Seawolves if you get a chance to. But let's move on to some National Hockey League stuff, and specifically the Seattle Kraken. So let's run down the games while we have been away. Sean, I'm sorry. The Seattle Kraken defeated your Sharks 3-2 right after we recorded our last show, followed by a 5-0 loss to St. Louis, a 5-3 win against Florida, a 4-2 loss to Nashville. Then they hit the road for 4 games, won 2-1 against Pittsburgh in overtime, fell to New York Rangers 3-2, fell to Boston 3-2, and then defeated the New York Islanders right before the All-Star break. They are back in action on Wednesday against the Arizona Coyotes, and they are at Anaheim on Friday before coming home for a makeup game against Toronto on Valentine's Day. So there has not been a lot to be happy about with Seattle Kraken. I mean, they've had a up and down schedule, a few wins sprinkled in with quite a few losses. They are currently last in the Pacific Division at the All-Star break at 15-27-4, 34 points. And they are second to last in the Western Conference, just ahead of the Arizona Coyotes, who come to town on Wednesday. So, Sean, have you been able to watch any Seattle Kraken hockey, and what have you thought about them?
I've been able to watch some Kraken hockey. Unfortunately, it's kind of more par for the course. They just can't get. They're not very good on offense still. It's really going to come down to this year, this offseason. What was their plans when they drafted this team? Because they drafted this team really defensive heavy with a goalie. Goalkeeping we've talked about, it could be kind of like the relief pitching of baseball and up and down. I still think Grubauer is a fine goalie. He hasn't played great this year, but again, we're 46 games into a COVID year. Training and all that stuff's been a little bit up in the air. So I think it's really going to depend on what it looks like this offseason and what they do. There are some options available, mainly from my San Jose Sharks, that are going to be really good priced if the Sharks don't cut some stupid cap, that you will take and love. Play those two players in particular. Please don't take Tomas Hertl. That would hurt me so deep. But he would be a great fit in Seattle. He'd be fantastic. He's going to be a relatively cheaper option, I believe, and he definitely scores goals, lots of them. And one or two guys like that really can turn this around. So, but it's just, that's what it is. It's just they're not great in the area they thought they'd be in, and they just aren't getting the goals that I don't think that they thought would be here either. So it's just kind of frustrating to watch.
Kevin, you been able to catch any Seattle Kraken hockey?
And as we all kind of saw, it wasn't impressive. So unfortunately, the awe and luck and glory of the new dog has worn off, sadly. The cuteness has not, it put the fear, or I don't know if it just distracted the other team to where they were able to, get some wins, but unfortunately now it's just back to being poopy again. So hopefully they can kind of pull it together for a final stretch to kind of come out somewhat decent at, in these last couple, before the playoffs start here in a little bit. But unfortunately, we just have to kind of look forward to next season. So.
For sure. I've been able to watch quite a few of the games before the All-Star break, and they have struggled on offense, like Sean said, but there have been some positives. Jared McCann has his career high in goals so far, so that's good to see. Jonas Domskoi finally got off the schneid and scored in Boston, so that was also good to see. Grubauer got his first shutout right before the All-Star break, 3-0 against the Islanders, so that was good to see. So there are some positives to take away, but overall, the record and the points, place in the standings is not good. But I'm curious what your thoughts are, Sean, if there are any guys you could see being traded away from the Kraken. I think one name that might shock people would be the captain, Mark Giordano. I mean, he is an older defenseman, but he is a solid top 6 defenseman. And if there is a need for a playoff team, he's getting up there in age. He's 37 right now. So I could see them potentially dealing him if there's a team that wants a defenseman. And then on the forward side of things, there are some guys. I don't think there's anybody that's necessarily safe. There could be someone looking for someone like a Calle Yarncroc or Yanni Gord for the right price. So I think a lot of these guys could be on the trade block, but I don't see them making too many big moves before the trade deadline, March 20th, I believe it is. So I think this team will be mostly intact. But there are some guys that could be traded. And Seattle Kraken fans, be careful, because it might be your favorite player. Brandon Tanev is probably not going anywhere because he got hurt and he's out for the season. But your Jamie Oleksiaks, your Carson Soucy's, your Lozons could be out, Larsons. Of course, I'm naming all defensemen. Your Donskois could be gone. Even sorry, Kevin, your Morgan Geeky might be going somewhere, but it's hard to tell at this point who's going to want what. But I don't think any player is particularly safe on this team, but I don't know if there's much of a market for some of these players on the Seattle Kraken team. Sean, what do you think?
I just think like someone like Geeky, I don't think he's going anywhere just because of his age. He's young. He's 23. You can work with that. I would agree with Donskoy. The problem is Donskoy just hasn't been the goal, I would say, creator that they thought he was going to be. So where does his value really end up right now? I agree with you. Mark Giordano is I would put money that he's the one that's leaving, like that at the trade deadline. He's going, and I don't disagree with it. Like, he's got a lot of value. That experience means a lot. He should go for his sake, like to try to make a run at this thing, maybe one last time, but getting the compensation will really help this team in the future. And like you said, maybe Jordan Epperle too, who I really like on this team. But I think he has a lot of value elsewhere as well. I think, but again, like he's one of the guys I think can create goals. So trading away someone like that is the guy I would personally keep, but I also at the same time get why you would move on from that. And hopefully some of these younger guys can take the step up to be kind of your next Jordan Epperle. But yeah, it's going to be the older guys.
For sure. All right. Well, keep supporting the Kraken. Like I said, they are back in action on Wednesday against the Arizona Coyotes, who will be probably looking for a new home since they are not going to be playing in the arena they currently are, since the city was like, no, you don't pay your bills. The Ducks on Friday, and then Toronto on Monday, and then we'll be back. So keep cheering on the Seattle Kraken. But let's briefly move on to some Major League Baseball news. So I want to let you guys mainly take it away from this one, but from the last update that I have, the players were rejecting the owners going with federal litigation in order to solve the labor dispute. And a lot of players on Twitter were basically saying that we don't need mediators, we can do this on our own. But with all that being said, it doesn't sound like spring training is going to be starting in a couple weeks like it's supposed to. So Sean, what do you kind of know about the current situation?
That's it. The owners, I think a lot of this is just the owners posturing of like, oh, we're in good faith trying to get a mediator here, when in reality it's not that. They're just they're trying to make the players look bad as in like this. And the players on the right, they're saying like, look, we don't need a mediator. You just need to respond to a deal and negotiate in good faith. And you need to respond when we offer you something and not wait 4 days or even weeks and just meet with us at the table. And that's really what happened. They're like, they didn't respond to the players for a while. And then they immediately went to federal mediator. And the players like, just talk to us, deny this. So it's the owners just posturing and trying to make it look in public like the players are the ones that are the bad guys. But in reality, we know it's the other way around.
Kevin, any thoughts on the current situation?
But hit the nail on the head. It's just kind of a slap in the face of the players, because like they sent out their their offer, they rejected it, and then once the players sent back their offer, it's frustrating as a fan, just because like you want to, especially to Mariners fans, with what's going on, with its bullpen and this team kind of about to turn the corner, or farm system, excuse me, not bullpen, but farm system and this team turning the corner. Yeah, it's just very frustrating, and hopefully some owners can pull their head out of their asses and start getting this thing together. So.
And let's also touch on the Hall of Fame news. The only person voted in to the Baseball Hall of Fame was Boston Red Sox legend David Ortiz, and officially being left out are Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds, among others.
For 1 year, they'll be discussed next year with the era ballots that come out.
Yeah, but by the baseball writers, they were not voted in on their 10th and final time. Just want to get your guys' thoughts on that. We talked a little bit about it on Twitter. I think you just got to let these guys in. They, like, when you think about baseball, especially when, I believe all of us were growing up, Barry Bonds was the guy. Barry Bonds was baseball. Roger Clemens was baseball.
I wouldn't say when we grew up. We were already grown up when Barry was doing his thing.
I mean, well, I was like
growing up was like 95, and he wasn't juicing.
It was like his career was like ended like middle school, high school for me, like 2008. I don't remember when he retired. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I was an adult already. Officially, legally, I was an adult. I was
okay. All right, fine. I'm a little younger than you guys, so a little bit younger for me. But I mean, in the late 90s, I mean,
McGuire and Sosa definitely were the guys juicing during my middle school era. Yeah.
And I just want to know what you guys thought about David Ortiz getting in. I'm not surprised he got in. He is a good player. I just don't know if he was a Hall of Fame worthy player. I think he does get in a little bit because of what he did for the city of Boston. But he's in. So nothing I don't really care about it, but I don't know if he was Hall of Fame worthy, but I suppose that's probably a different discussion. Sean, what did you think?
Honestly, you make a pretty good point. He got in. He hit 500 home runs. He was gonna get in. Advanced metrics, he probably actually wasn't that good. A good player, but he is running because Edgar crawled. Edgar did all the work. Edgar was the OG. He was the beast, like Edgar Martinez. Like advanced metrics say he did a lot of good things, but he also benefited, especially early on in his career, where they didn't shift that much. He played in Boston, short pesky pull, and he's a pure pull hitter. They did not shift on him. And that's why the advanced metrics don't love him as much. Like his career WAR is only 50. And usually the bar is 60 to make it. And he did not clear that bar. And so I think he gets a lot of hype for his 500 home runs and his playoff clutchness, which is not a thing. It's just he gets to run because Edgar crawled and did all the hard work for him. Edgar was the beast. Ortiz is fine. I have a little animosity for him because Edgar did all that work for Ortiz to get in, for the dude just can't get in, and Edgar put in all those years of just getting crapped on by like riders and stuff like that. And Ortiz gets in the first year. He's the Hall of Famer. It's borderline, but I'm just like, get him in, and just I don't want to talk about him anymore, only because of the sour taste in my mouth of what they did to Edgar Martinez.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm about the same. Just it's not fair that Egger, got pooped on for the nice and easy route. Should he get in? Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised, with how much he contributed to Boston and how much Boston's, especially during that era that he was playing with him and all those runs and stuff like that, coming out of their long funk and then just being dominant. Yeah, hopefully, like I said, as Sean mentioned, Egger opened the door. He just walked in without getting an ounce of dirt on him. Yeah.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of the Hall of Fame inductions, MLB labor issues, the Seattle Kraken, the Storm re-signing Breonna Stewart, Jewel Lloyd, and Sue Bird, the Winter Olympics. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Phoenix Matt. Sean's at Sean Scorbady. Kev's at Kesby, the first Ian believes being a 3. I'm out of practice right now. And this person right here is Pika the Cozy Kitty on Twitter. If you want to follow her, she's very cute. But let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks. And we're going to start with the defensive coordinator. The Seattle Seahawks are expected to promote defensive line coach Clint Hurt to defensive coordinator. Sources confirmed to ESPN on Friday. This was a story from last Friday. And former Denver Broncos defensive coordinator Ed Donatel is expected to join the staff in a senior role, although I believe he's still in line for the New York Giants defensive coordinator position. So that I don't think is official quite yet. But Hurt is replacing Ken Norton Jr., as we all know, who was fired last month after being 4 seasons the defensive coordinator for Seattle. So let's just start with that. What do you guys think of the hiring? Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
As I kind of already mentioned on Twitter, for those that follow, it's just heading off the pom-poms.
I think we lost him.
No, I think the frozen image of Kevin's face is actually perfect. So
I'll reiterate what Kevin is saying. Oh, sorry, we lost you.
There he is.
Okay.
You missed
Lost
all.
it. Okay.
It was frozen on a really good still image of your face. It was perfect. Go ahead.
You said your Twitter thing, and then you stopped talking.
You went like,
yeah.
oh,
Okay,
nap again.
I'll say what.
Can you hear me?
There you
Yes.
go.
Okay. So even if you can't see me, hopefully my voice is still coming through. Pretty much for the most part, it's just a handing off the pom-poms. It's Pete's defense, and this move just kind of proves it. Pete's not going to bring in somebody from the other, that he doesn't know from the outside, because it's his defense, and he's going to bring up somebody who's going to be subordinate to him, who's going to do what he says. And the defense ain't going to change, boys and girls. It's still going to be crappy. Sure, we could draft more pieces and other players that we draft. Brooks will get better and stuff like that, and we'll see what we do with Bobby down the road. But this ain't going to change much, guys. Like I don't know what the 12th man out there thought. Like we were going to, I would love to bring in like a Brian Flores, even out of control at the moment, but I don't know if we'll have time to get that. But unfortunately, this shows Pete's stubbornness. Like Pete doesn't want to change his philosophy. He believes that until the day he dies, he believes that his philosophy of how to run a defense is the way to do it, even though it's been like slapped in. Like Sean McVay has literally just publicly just humiliated his defense, and just shown how much of it's a joke by just doing 4 receivers, and just like, I'm just going to beat it. And trick action, run designs and stuff like that. And Pete's just like, run it back, boys. You just do it better. Cover, Pete, do you want to do cover 2 or cover 3? Flip a coin. That's all we do. But cover 2, literally, it's soft, weak zone, cover 2, cover 3. Like, I don't know what else to say to 12s out there like that. Now I was happy to see a nice population of them kind of starting to get it. They're like, oh, like people were like, oh, Pete's not changing. I was like, yeah, no shit. It's been Pete's defense this whole time. It had nothing to do with Ken Norton Jr. was Pete, like this reason that we're like what ranked 24th, 26th last year is because of Pete. Lack of player development and player evaluation talent and stuff like that. Yes, Brooks and that got better, but it's just there's barely any pass rush until the end of the year when it didn't even count. Like where the hell were you, Carlos Dunlap, until week 15? And then you're like, oh, I'm going to turn it on, even though we're out of the playoffs. And it's like, I should have started week 1, but okay. Yeah, nobody else really, other than Alton Robinson, who looked better, but did he make the step I wanted him to take? No. Hopefully next year kind of becomes that year, or else you kind of have to look into possibly moving on from that. And nobody else really kind of took that jump. I mean, Puna Ford was still the two middle guys, Puna Ford and Monet were solid, but they're not what you're going to rely on. Just wasn't there. I'm glad you didn't really use the Jamal Adams thing nearly as much, but it's still, you were still getting shredded and you didn't let Russell do his thing. So all in all, it means nothing. This defense is still going to suck, and enjoy it, Seahawks fans, because yeah, we're still going to give up an average of probably 21 plus points.
Sean?
I don't want to say too much what Kevin said, but I mean, they interviewed, I can't remember the podcast now, KJ Wright, and they interviewed Sherman on a separate podcast. And they basically said what Kevin said. It is, I will take KJ Wright's interview in context. He is a Ken Norton Jr. guy. So he was a little hurt. He did say that he was hurt on how they let Ken Norton Jr. go. So take that with a grain of salt where KJ is coming from. But he did say that this is Pete's thing. Like Pete has it. Yes, he's not calling plays on the sideline or anything like that, but he has a certain, especially on defense. KJ did say on offense too, but certainly on defense, it is his baby. And it's a certain overall scheme that he wants, and to be, relatively safe, relatively not get beat deep, all these certain things, these goals. And other than that, if you have to work within a certain framework, there's only so much you're going to do. Like I really, and someone famously on Twitter pulled it out that obviously Clint Hurt was going to be the guy because he's bald. I don't know if anyone's
I know, I saw that
Every
too.
single
He's got a type.
coordinator has been bald. So if you got hair, you ain't working for Pete Carroll in the defensive coordinator position. You work somewhere else, but just not on the defense.
You could be offensive coordinator, but yeah. I mean,
yeah, actually, I think they all have hair. So like you just got to pick one or the other. If you got hair, you're on offense. No hair defense. Ed Dontel is an interesting guy. He comes from the Vic Fangio, which I talked about. We talk about on this podcast? Yeah, Vic Fangio guy. Which I don't mind and like, because Vic is a very good defensive coordinator. But the problem with he's going to bring in a 3-4. One, he's not the defensive coordinator. And two, like Kevin said, I don't think you're going to have sweeping changes with any of these guys coming in. He might want to run a 3-4, but you're not going to.
He's not going to do it.
Well, and I don't agree with running a 3-4 with how this team is constructed. They don't have the personnel to run a 3-4. But still, I don't think any sweeping changes are going to happen. I'm hoping enough changes happen that they get a little better. But yeah, Kevin's right. They've got to improve talent-wise across the board. I mean, Jamal Adams healthy should help. They found some corners at the end of the year, but again, like we're talking about, the end of the year last year lied to us too. We didn't play a tough schedule really at the end of this year, and yeah, they looked better, but they were kind of supposed to look better. So when you're guarding Cooper Kupp, let's see how you guys are, Sidney Jones and those guys. Like I need you to play against him and Ayuk, because you're going to be playing against those guys. You're going to get DeAndre Hopkins in this division. We got to beat those guys. I don't care that you're covering the number 3 in Detroit. You did really good. Congratulations. You get DeAndre Hopkins next year twice. You get Cooper Kupp twice. You get Robert Woods back again twice. Like, you need to show up with the big guys, and you didn't this year. So don't get blinded by the end of the year numbers or grades, because that doesn't contextualize everything that happened during the season. So who your opponents matter. That's why some of these defensive DOVA and things like that are a little better, because they contextualize opponents. And it's just, and like Kevin said, they were the 21st ranked team in defense when you take into account opponents. They were about low average defense. So yeah, they were around Houston level. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I'm hoping it's a change for the better, but like until I see it, I can't believe it's anything other than the same.
Yeah, I've heard the same things, that it's Pete's defense, but I hope that he does some things that he can do. One, utilize your talent in the proper positions. So I'm hoping Jamal Adams his talents are properly utilized. Me personally, I throw him at linebacker. That's just me. And I also hope the dropping defensive lineman back into coverage, that goes away. And I'm hoping that it's similar to what Ken Norton Jr. did for the linebackers, which is kind of bring out the best in them. Because I believe the defensive line was the weakest point of this defense. And if Clint Hurt can have the influence that Ken Norton Jr. did on the linebacking core, that would be excellent, because the pass rush was not great. And that is one area that really needs to improve, especially against a lot of pass happy teams. And, we've got the personnel. We've got, your Punas, your Ben Samayoas, all the guys that came on late, but I want that to be consistent throughout the season. And hopefully Clint Hurt has the sort of, the coaching mentality and the ability to bring the best out of his defensive linemen, because that is a position that was, in my opinion, the weakest on the defense last year. So hopefully, so hopefully he will kind of be able to elevate that position group. And, obviously players are going to come and go. So hopefully he'll have the best complementing defensive lineman in order to generate a pass rush, as well as, plug those holes and stop the run. So we'll see what it does. Like you guys said, I don't think it's going to change anything necessarily schematically, but hopefully a change in voice will have more of an influence on helping this defense play a little better, especially against some of those better teams. But let's move on to
well, hold on, quick update. Still
sorry.
4-2 power play for Team USA. Still 4-2. 8 minutes left on the third.
Ooh,
okay,
not good. But hopefully Team USA can bring it back there. But let's move on to the Richard Sherman podcast. So Richard Sherman hosted his, I don't think it's weekly. I think maybe it's monthly or something. It's hosted through Pro Football Focus, and he had Cliff Averill on, and he had quite a few things to say. So I'm pulling up an article from Mike Salk, ESPN.
Can I just say, I read
710.
this article from Mike Salk, and Mike Salk sounds like a bitter little man. Like,
yeah.
Like, Mike Salk, shut up.
So some of Sherman's comments, I think at the end of the day, and Seattle fans are going to hate to hear this because they hate accountability these days, but they're probably going to get rid of Bobby Wagner. And once you do that, that's it. You're in a rebuild. I don't care if Russell Wilson is there or not. You're in rebuild mode. He also said, these fans have never won anything before we got here. They had never won anything. They went to the Super Bowl in 06 and were happy to be there. And that was their biggest claim. And then we get here, and then we get there. We win a Super Bowl. We spoiled them with historic defense, and all of a sudden that's their expectation. He also said, they're like, we got to get rid of these guys. They're past their prime. Like, we've got to draft another all-pro player. How many have you drafted? There hasn't been another all-pro corner since I left. To think that you can just replace and go on and think, oh, the Super Bowl should still be the expectation. No, it should not. You should lower your expectations substantially. They were talking about getting rid of us, and they were like, we got replacements. We got LOB 2.0. And then you got rid of us, and then you realize you don't. You realize we were once in generation talent, and you should have kept it and appreciate it when you had it. And then even if Bobby is past his prime, if he's 3 years past his prime, he's better than everybody you could get in after him. He's better than 85% of the middle linebackers in the league right now, and that's what they don't understand. And then he said, people
you can't let Russ cook.
Yeah.
You can't throw 30, 40 times a game and win the Super Bowl without because you're stopping the clock too much.
And then oh my God, you talk about a rebuild. They get rid of Pete Carroll. Good luck. So yeah, you guys can look at the article from Mike Salk, as well as some other comments from Richard Sherman if you haven't watched the podcast already. But just want to get your guys' reaction. Sean, what do you think?
Okay, so I guess I don't really want to harp on this too much, but there's some things that Richard Sherman's a very intelligent man. I'll say that. I'll start that off. But Richard Sherman is very emotional, as Seahawks fans should understand, as we can say that. What he said, accountability. And I think a lot of the 12s are in what Richard Sherman is, who he's talking, are about who he's talking to. There's a lot of general Seahawks fans who exactly like thought you could replace him. And I've talked with everybody in our group chat of like, you need to appreciate what the LOB was. And that's why, honestly, that run we had was disappointing. Why we only won so much. We had a once in a generation talent with a Hall of Fame quarterback. That has never happened in the history of football. Like a all-time defense, as we talk about the Baltimore Ravens in the early 2000s, the Baltimore or the Bucks in the the end of 2000s, early 2000s, the 85 Bears, those the Purple People Eaters. None of them, the Steel Curtain, none of them had a quarterback even close to the caliber of Russell Wilson with them. That should be the making of like multiple Super Bowls minimum. All those teams won a Super Bowl, just one with no quarterback. With Brad Johnson, Dilfer, like you had a complete team. You were the first time an elite defense, a top 5 unit on the planet was together. Statistically, if you take Arizona into account, they're the second best defensive unit of all time. And you had an elite quarterback with that. You should have won a lot of games. And replacing them, yes, it's the money and all that stuff, but like you are not going to find Richard Sherman's. And this team, and it was quickly apparent to me before some other friends that me and Kevin know were talking about, like, oh, Pete John, I trust. And after a while, I was like, I don't trust them anymore. Like they are not a good drafting team. And they have not shown the ability to make LLB 2.0 very clearly. So Richard Sherman is correct there. Like getting rid of these good players is hard, especially for the Seahawks. Other teams, it's not as hard, but it is that. Richard Sherman, happy to be there in 2006. I picked the Seahawks to go to the Super Bowl that year. The Seahawks were clearly the best team in the NFC that year. They went to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl was just getting there. It was fun. It was nice, but they were, and especially against playing Pittsburgh, the Seahawks were the better team. I expected them to win that game. The team I expected them to play and lose was the Peyton Manning-led Colts. But Bob Sanders can't freaking tackle. So thank you, Bob Sanders, for that. If they played the Colts, I'd be like, okay, fine. Losing that game is like a realistic thing, but they were so much better than the Pittsburgh Steelers. It wasn't even funny. And the fact that they lost was infuriating. You can't replace Bobby. The issue with Richard Sherman, what he's talking about with a lot of these things is replacing these guys isn't just about the talent, it is the money that goes in with these players. Bobby's going to make 28 against the Cap this year. I'm not advocating for getting rid of Bobby. Don't get me wrong. I want to keep Bobby, but that is not how you look at these players in totality with a salary cap. The money attached to the player's name has to be taken into account. You have to be worth the money you're making. And it's not past performance, it's future performance. So that conversation needs to be had, not because Bobby isn't one of the best players, but can you find a guy who's maybe half of Bobby for 1/8 of the price? That's kind of what you have to look at because you have to spend money elsewhere. I'm trying to go quickly. Let Russ cook, all this other stuff. Richard Sherman shows, again, he doesn't understand exactly what analytics is telling you. And analytics and letting Russ cook isn't throwing the ball 40 times a game. I'm going to tell this again for one more time what let Russ cook means. There are situations in a game where it is neutral and it is you choose to pass in those situations more than you choose to run. It's not saying you line up and have to throw 40 times a game. If the game script tells you get up a bunch early, run the football. Analytics doesn't tell you have to throw the football all the time. Or if you're, 3rd and 1, you can run the football. It's totally fine. Neutral situations are early in the game. You should be throwing it a little bit more because you throw to score and run to hold on to leads. But if you got a really big lead early, there's nothing wrong, Kansas City Chiefs, with running the fucking football. Sorry. But that's okay. And Sherman, like 40 times a game, like, and again, like this barrier of like, it's a failure of a season if you don't make the Super Bowl we're going to talk about this in the next set, isn't the expectation. Expecting going to a Super Bowl every year is absolutely insane. The Kansas City Chiefs have like one of the best teams ever and have been to like 2. Like it's like in the last 4 years, like they're clearly been the best team in the last 4 years and have been to 2. They've only been to half. Like expecting every single season to go to the Super Bowl is beyond what someone could be expecting. And that's what Sherman's is like, oh, you've got to get to the Super Bowl. Seahawks fans should just be expecting, look, I got a realistic shot of making the Super Bowl in the playoff start. Do I go is a different thing. These are 1 games. Coin flip. The Packers lost to Brady 2 years ago because they forgot to play prevent defense at the half. The guy just forgot to play, and then I think it's Adam Humphries just run by him. That doesn't happen. The Packers are in the Super Bowl, not the Tom Brady and the Bucks. But 1 play in these 1-game playoffs can change everything. So just going to the playoffs with a realistic chance of going to the Super Bowl is really the best you can kind of hope for in a 1-game playoff situation. Firing Pete is a reset. As long as you got a quarterback, it's not a reset. Again, we talked about it. Oh, I guess I don't think I've actually talked about it on the podcast, but I talked about it on Twitter. This is my last point. There's a big data bowl thing coming out that is talking about the overall player value and winning percentage, kind of like a WAR for baseball. And it determined it's not out yet because they haven't really narrowed it down. They want more data around it, but it's between 70 and 80% of your team's win value is added by your quarterback. They're basically 3/4 of your team is your quarterback. And that doesn't mean that a bad quarterback can win a Super Bowl, but if you want continued success, you need that elite quarterback. Like a Jimmy G or a Flacco can get you to Super Bowl, but like year in and year out, are they going to really give you a chance to get a Super Bowl? No. Like you want the Rodgers, or you want the Bradys, or you want the Mahomes, because they're going to year in and year out give you that chance to make the Super Bowl. Are they going to get there every year? No. Again, we talk about it. It's 1 game. Things happen. But like going into the playoffs, those are the guys that are going to give you that chance every year. So if you got the Russell Wilson, yeah, you got a chance every year to be there. So you do not rebuild if you still have Russell Wilson.
I'm just going to kind of go down these real quick, so I don't take up too much time. But the accountability thing, I don't really understand that point. I think Seahawks fans are really trying to hold their team accountable based on everything I've heard. So I don't really agree with that statement.
Really quickly, like you said, accountability, and then he says at the same time, "Don't fire Pete Carroll." Like, then who are we holding accountable at this point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that comment.
They're the last 2 guys left from like that's it, right?
And Russ and Bobby.
Yeah, but again, like those are the 4. If we're not holding them accountable, who are we holding accountable anymore?
Yeah, so that comment, I don't really understand what he's trying to say there. You had nothing before him, and it ruined you. That Super Bowl in 06, I will give him. I was happy to be there. Granted, I was a sophomore in high school, so that was a long time ago. But it was the first time the Seahawks had ever made the Super Bowl. I was absolutely happy to be there, but of course I wanted to win the game. I'm not just happy to be there and like, oh, we can lose and it's fine. Like that's not how it works. So I disagree with him on that. The expectation thing, I do slightly agree with, because Seahawks fans' expectations seem to be all over the map, and they have Russell Wilson, and that means we have to do something amazing every year. Like the expectation thing, I absolutely agree with on Richard Sherman, is because we won the Super Bowl, and the expectations doesn't seem like it ever came down. So I do agree with Richard Sherman on that one. The replacements of the LOB, I don't know anybody that thought we had LOB 2.0, but maybe that's just me. Maybe someone else said that, but I didn't see LOB 2.0 right behind them. But
there were people who said it. I saw that.
Okay. Well, there were people who said it, but I disagree with that. You can't get rid of Bobby because you can't replace him. Sean has the money aspect, so I'll let him deal with that. I would agree with that. I don't think there are many middle linebackers you'd rather have in the league than Bobby at this point. Obviously the price tag does matter when you're dealing with the salary cap. So
it has to.
That's something you have to take into consideration. But do I want to get rid of Bobby? No. I want Bobby.
To be fair, I said that too, though. I didn't want to get rid of Bobby. I'm just saying,
I know.
It has to be part of the equation.
I know, but it's I do not want to get rid of Bobby. I would love for Bobby to be a Seahawk his entire career. Now, is that realistic? Who knows? Who knows how many more years Bobby has left? But his play has, been pretty solid for the most part his entire career. Last season was no exception. So I would like Bobby to be here for as long as he would like, and as long as he is performing at the level he's performing at, of course. You can't let Russ cook. That one is interesting to me because Sean gave a different interpretation of how I hear people say let Russ cook. When I hear people say let Russ cook, that means we are throwing 30 to 40 times a game. That means we are 60-40 pass or 65-35 pass as opposed to 50-50 or 45-55, whatever Pete does. I ran some numbers.
That isn't what analytics says. That is not what let Russ cook. Let Russ cook is analytics, and that is not what analytics tells you to do.
Okay,
there's not a number that you get to by throwing it.
Well, in that case, that makes a little more sense. But the way that Richard is interpreting it, I would absolutely agree, because since the LOB has left, the team has won games, but you know, you get in the playoffs and you guys have said Russ has carried this team and he can't carry the team in the playoffs. So good regular season, can't carry in the postseason. So that seems like an accurate assessment of that. But if it's the analytics side, then I see your point on that one. The Super Bowl should not be the expectation. You can't get rid of Pete or else it's the rebuild. It depends on who's there, but and depends who you bring in, but that could be the case. That could be the case. I can't say he's wrong, but also can't say he's right depending on who's here. And then now people want to get rid of Pete. That is also absolutely true. Like people saw one losing season and they want to get rid of Pete. I am on the agreement with him on this one. I would
They
like
want
to
to get rid of Pete for like 3 years now. Let's be very real.
Okay,
here.
well, I think Pete has earned himself one more.
It has nothing to do with this one losing season at all.
Sure. And then I think that Pete has earned himself at least, if he has one more bad year, I'm all for getting rid of him. Like, let's throw in the kitchen sink, do a rebuild. But I think one bad season, I'm with Richard on this one. Like, there's no legitimate reason, in my opinion, to fire him other than you just don't like him. So that's my take. Ken, what do you think?
I'm only going to touch on a couple here because the first part about with the 2.0, there was fans that said that, you know, with what we were getting is the 2.0. But at the same time too, here's the thing, defensive players don't last as long as a quarterback. Am I still kind of rolling? Because it's just
no, you're good.
Okay,
you're good.
Most of the time you're prime for a defense is like once, and they were all kind of getting toward that 30 cap, you know, versus a quarterback, as we just saw with Tom Brady, can go up until their 40s in their prime. So it to the late part of their prime, and versus like Russell is now going to. So what they should have done is take that money by not paying the LOB and built around an offense, get him an offensive line, get him weapons. But did they do that? No, because Pete Carroll's an idiot, and use their good drafting to replenish the defense to where it's sufficient. Are you going to get an LOB again? No, but you should replenish that defense to where it's where you're around the middle of the bar to a little bit better. Something that can keep to where like Russell is just dominant. You know, you don't have to make it a shootout every time to help Russell out. That's what they should have done. But, you know, Sherman also at the same time, too, is very prideful and emotional, as Sean has already mentioned. So he took that as, and like Earl, I mean, flipping off Pete on the sideline as his legs broke. They were just very emotional players, and they took it as a slap in the face. But it's just the business side of the NFL. It's going to happen. You're pushing 30. You both came off it. He came off an Achilles injury, which was very questionable. Even Sean was mentioning at the time, like, you don't know what Richard Sherman you're going to get next year. Did he come back and have a really good year once he was healthy? Yeah, he was solid. I believe they're, especially Earl too, like when they moved out of that Pete, and that's the thing with Pete's schemes, why it hurts them, is that when we see players go off to other systems, it hurts them because they're so used to that cover 2, cover 3, just all the freaking time, to where if you get into man situations and other, you know, defensive schemes and stuff like that, it kind of what they were in Seattle. What else was I going to say? The whole Fire Pete thing, as Sean already mentioned too, going to be contribute to the most of that. I mean, we've seen that with Aaron Rodgers. Like, have they missed, you know, ever since they fired what's his fat face down in Dallas now, like, and then he cost Dallas pretty much you know, a playoff game. Aaron Rodgers hasn't really skipped a beat. I mean, he's been super freaking good, and they just haven't put more things around him. And it's the same with Russell. And then you get these people. What was that that idiot's name today that said Russell Wilson isn't good?
Ryan
Clark.
Yeah, that complete freaking absolute moron. Who just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, hasn't looked at advanced stats, hasn't looked at tape. I guarantee you, he just looks at highlights and he's just like, oh yeah, it's deep. You know, he just made he just won his 10 seconds of fame of being an idiot and spewing some random crap out there without actually looking at the background, looking at the stats, looking at the tape, and seeing what Russell actually does for this team. And you saw it this year. Like, what did they do without Russ? What did they do without Russ? Lots of losing. That's what they did. Yeah, Russ came back a little early, and it showed. Like, he should have waited a little bit longer. The Green Bay game kind of showed that. But
they're not winning that game with Geno Smith. Like,
no, hell no, God no.
So
yeah, like
really.
This team is based off of Russ. Like, you can, and the whole fire Pete, you can't. You don't even have to rebuild. Like, you have the key component in Russell Wilson, and he's only 33. Like, you can not even a rebuild. You can just, and you have the pieces on offense, get that man an offensive line and get a somewhat respectable defense. I'm not saying they have to be LOB. They don't even need to be like 75% LOB. Just get a defense that can get off the.
Yeah. Like, to Kevin's point, like, oh, is he back? There you go.
Oh, am I back?
There you're back.
Okay. Sorry. Get a defense that is not setting the record for most this season on the field. Like, that's what you need to do. Like, build around. You have the offensive weapons. Just get, like, and the whole Bobby thing too. Like, you can't replace Bobby. Yes, that's true. You can't replace Bobby, but
Finding a guy. Yeah.
am I back? Okay.
You're back. You're back.
All right. Freaking internet, I swear to God. Charter.
As he calls out Charter.
Yeah. I was gonna say, you don't need to replace Bobby. You just need a moderate to good middle linebacker, which I believe you kind of have with either Brooks or
Was he saying
Was it
Barton or
28
Ben
million?
Burkervin?
Yeah. 28 million or whatever. What if you could take that money and go get like a Chandler Jones and then another good opposite end piece to get you you don't have to replace it. You can use that money to build your defense in other parts, to get yourself a better pass rush, to get you a better secondary. It doesn't have to replace Bobby to get the best in the game. You don't need to do that. Like, will I miss Bobby in his play? Hell yeah. He's literally Hall of Fame, all pro linebacker. And he's probably the best linebacker the Seahawks have ever had, period.
Oh yeah.
It's not even a question. But like, Sherman's just letting that emotional side get to it, to like, oh, you can't, like, yeah, we're not going to replace Sherman. Hell no. But like, we could use that. What they should have done is use that money that they saved on Richard Sherman to both.
To Kevin's point, since he's gone still, if you sign the Bobby, like, oh, you're back. If you sign the Bobby, you need to be smarter with your money. We let KJ Wright walk for $3 million. Like that's $3 million that should have been spent. Like, you need to be smarter when you pay for Russell Wilson. The Seahawks were willy-nilly early on and have been their entire time since the couple drafts with their resources. When you now are paying guys, when you paid Sherman, when you paid Earl, when you paid Bobby, when you paid Russell, you can't be willy-nilly with those resources anymore. And it really showed. They screwed up all the time, and you're just making terrible decision after terrible decision. And having a Bobby is fine, but this team having a Bobby might not be fine because we don't know what the heck we're doing with our resources.
Yeah.
So let me
so much smaller.
Let me play a little devil's advocate. So you want to bring back Bobby with less money. Why does that not apply to Russell as well?
Wait, who said that? I'm
I
fine
did.
with what he has.
But if Bobby has to take a pay cut, why doesn't Russell have to take a pay cut?
Neither of them have to take a pay cut. Why would any of them have to take a pay cut?
Because you were saying that you want to keep Bobby, but the amount of money is the problem.
That's what the going rate for good players is. Like, that's what it is. You pay the players that are good. And that's unfortunately what it is in the NFL, especially at the end of these contracts. That's the cost of doing business.
Also, to put it in perspective, Matt, Bobby is at the end of his career. He's in his last 2 years. Russell is 33.
Bobby's cap hit is $20 million this year.
I mean, you could make the same argument for Russ as you can for Bobby. Like, You don't know how much longer Russ has. You don't know how much longer Bobby has.
I
But
mean,
Kevin's point is right.
What
Linebackers
has
do
given you the indication that Bobby's game has declined this year? What has given you that indication?
Well, the numbers. He is
None.
declining. He's losing steps. Like you could see it. All the advanced numbers played out too. He's not a bad player. He's still very
No,
elite.
he's good.
The problem is, like, middle linebackers don't play as long as quarterbacks. Like they just don't. Especially in
He's
today's
taking
NFL.
hits constantly. Yeah.
Especially in today's NFL. Like linebackers aren't playing until their 40s, like or 38s. They're not the same player anymore.
Yeah.
It's a speed game, and Bobby at 38 isn't going to keep up with that slot corner or that slot receiver or that tight end. Even he's not going to just do that. Where the quarterback game isn't really like, being able to run a little bit is all you really need at the quarterback. Just a threat. He doesn't need to be like 21-year-old Russ. He just needs to be like, could move around a little bit.
Yeah. And minus some crazy ass injury to Russ. Like there's no Russ. I mean, as he gets older, he's going to lose the speed and mobility.
Like left tackles, linemen, they could play for a while because that position doesn't demand the raw athleticism that a middle linebacker does. That athleticism goes away
Every
quickly.
play too.
Well, I'll bring up a point that KJ talked about, I believe, in the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast, where he said that he thinks Russ should take less money like Brady did. Now, Russ, Bobby, both earn their money. Absolutely, no questions about that.
Brady retired. Well, who's going to take less money? That's it. Like, it's done. Like, there's no quarterback giving you a discount anymore.
I understand that is the case at the moment, but that doesn't mean you don't have to. That is what I'm saying.
That doesn't mean now you have to.
I am not saying Russ has not earned his money, but that does not mean he cannot take less.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
they could sign more people. Same with Bobby. So I don't like the argument.
KJ could play for free.
I don't like the argument of Bobby having to take a pay cut while Russ doesn't.
I don't think anybody made that argument.
But no, that's true.
Okay.
But at the same time, if that argument is made, it goes back to Sean's point that the contributing success of a team is more based on a quarterback than a middle linebacker.
Yes.
And having the game with you, Matt. So with why is it Russell's fault that he should take a pay cut because Pete and John haven't drafted well enough to replenish this team?
Because if you have more money, you can sign more players. You have more resources available.
It's their job to do.
It's a simple dollars and cents.
But it's a thing. They have the product and the things they have the resources needed to replenish. Like Kevin said, they're not doing it.
They're not doing it.
The window is smaller, yes, with Russell making that much money, but there's still enough resources there. KJ cost $3 million. They said no. Like they just simply said no. That was terrible.
I'm not arguing that they're using their resources well, but what I am saying is you take less money, there are more resources.
But
now, will they use them right?
For them to screw up.
Will they use it right? Who knows? But you will have more resources.
You gave Kerry Hyder the same money that KJ Wright got. Kerry Hyder got more money. What the fuck are you doing, Seattle?
I'm not arguing
that's what I'm saying.
For the resources. I'm saying you will have more resources available.
But Seattle hasn't proven they can do anything with the resources. You have to show me you could do something with it.
That's why Russell won't do it, because he doesn't trust him to.
Yes. Why would he
do that with the resources?
For them to screw it up?
Then Russ should just leave. Like, why is he playing this game? Like,
he's under contract. He probably will leave. That's the cold hard truth. We've talked about it. Seahawks are on a timer. Like that is the unfortunate.
It's either fire Pete or he's gone. His contract's up.
You're paying your kicker, your punter, and your kicker over $1.5 million more than KJ Wright was going to get to come back. Your punter is making a $1.4 million in KJ Wright.
Michael has earned that money, so I'm not going to argue.
But he doesn't matter as much as KJ Wright does for the success of this team. Like that's what I'm saying. Like it's horrible mismanagement, of resources. It's just not good. Like we've talked about it. Like they drafted Cody Barton. We talked about the top 100 players in the draft are really exponentially really valuable. Top 3 rounds are really you get most of your team's WAR from those 3 rounds. And the Seahawks are like, okay, let's draft a safety and let's draft a linebacker in those with those picks. The next year and that same offseason, the Seahawks traded for 2 safeties and drafted a linebacker. And I'm like, the fuck did you just do with the last year's picks? You just burned those picks. Gone completely. 1 year later, both of them done. And you had to use resources to trade for the other 2 safeties you traded for. I'm like, You drafted a guy in the top 100, then traded tons of resources to get 2 other safeties. Why even draft Blair? Like, then you draft Cody Barton. You're like, okay, this guy's a good linebacker. He's drafted pretty high. Let's do this thing. The next year, you draft an off-ball linebacker in the first round. It's just like, why did you spent 2 top 50 picks on the same position in back-to-back years?
It just again in April.
I'm not even saying like Brooks is bad, but it's just like you one of the 2 isn't playing. You've burned resources, and those are valuable resources. You can't keep burning over and over and over. Colby Parkinson, we talked about it. You had to go out and sign somebody because you don't even trust the guy you drafted to play. For some reason, he's done nothing to show you he can't play football.
Alex Collins.
But you go out and get other people. Like, I just don't understand the use of resources here.
There's the accountability, Richard. There's the accountability. And I will say, for the record, I love Richard Sherman. Going in the Seahawks Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
absolutely respect his opinion. I will agree with you guys. There was probably some emotion and maybe some animosity towards how things went.
This is also the same guy who criticized Pete Carroll when he left and said that shit doesn't work, quote, in the NFL. So now years later, he's like, maybe it works.
I mean, which one's emotional, which one's not? It's hard to tell. And, Richard's a smart guy, so I'm sure his opinion has changed over time with what he's known in different teams. But yeah, his comments previously as opposed to now, hard to tell what is an emotional aspect of it and what is his unbiased take on it. So it's hard to tell in that aspect. We are in an hour, so let's move on to the Super Bowl as well as the NFC and AFC championship games. Well, we've got some time here. So we were gone right before the AFC and NFC championship, but the Super Bowl is next week. If you aren't aware, Rams, Bengals in LA, home game for the Rams.
Are they the road team or the home team officially? I think they're the home team, because was it Tampa Bay in the NFC road technically last year?
I think so.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay was technically the road team last year.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing about the Super Bowl that you need to take into account is that Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar are performing at halftime. So should be a good show there. Who knows, might be better than one on the field. But the Rams are a 4.5-point favorite. But I just kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on the AFC and NFC championship games or the Super Bowl. I'm just gonna go real quick. The NFC game, man, 49ers had it. They had it. It was the exact opposite of the game they played at the end of the regular season. Rams were able to make that comeback. Good on you. Man, I don't know where Jimmy G's going to play next year, but the guy somehow wins. You can call the stats all you want about him, but dude wins games. It might not be because of him, but he wins games. And then on the AFC side, Kevin and I were talking about this before the game. Like, man, Chiefs are up 21-3 or 21-10, and they could have just shut the door at the end of the half there. But once they failed at the end of the half to score, that just something turned, and Cincinnati just kept coming. And, when you see Joe Burrow roll up in the stuff he rolls up in, I don't know why we doubt him anymore. I mean, the guy looks like he wins at everything. So in terms of a prediction, I've been writing my column for the paper this week about the Super Bowl, and I go back and forth. My heart wants the Bengals, but my head believes the Rams. So I am going to take the Rams, despite what my heart wants. And I do think the Bengals will cover that 4.5, though. So I think it'll be 30-27 LA. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, the NFC championship. I didn't really care who won. I was just kind of happy it was there because I wanted 12s to suffer, just because of their.
It's cold-blooded, Kevin.
Also, Kevin, you did call the NFC championship game. If he's there.
But yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I just I wanted to kind of suffer just because of they're like, oh my gosh, Pete and Russell love each other. Look at them on the sideline. Like Russell's gonna do that no matter what. I'm like, stop it, let's get rid of Pete. But so I just wanted them to. Yeah, it was crazy. Adjustments were made. Joe Burrow did some things. He made some proper adjustments, ran when he needed to. It can't all just be, and that's kind of what I was talking about with like the Seahawks and stuff like that too. Like you put pieces on offense for him, but I mean injuries were kind of a thing too. I like to see it with a full stacked thing, but I think that Chiefs need to get a smidge higher. Anywho, Super Bowl prediction. I want the Rams to win because, like I said, I want Seahawks fans to suffer for their ignorance of just wanting to bring beat back and just being okay with it and not just letting the shenanigans go on instead of going to and being like, fire that motherfucker. But I have a feeling the Bengals are going to win. Probably just because Cooper Kupp is a problem, and he has been a problem the whole year. But I don't know. I just have it. I have it kind of like it kind of feels like a repeat of Super Bowl 48 because I mean it's Joe Burrow's second year. Win. I'm going to say I don't think it's going to be a blowout like Super Bowl 48. I'm going to say 27-21.
John, what do you think?
This was a very interesting division championship. I want to go back to the Titans Bengals game, and me and Kevin were in a chat, and the moment that they announced Derrick Henry was back, I said the Bengals are going to win. Titans are not winning because they're going to feed Derrick Henry too much, and they did. And they lost because they fed Derrick Henry 20 times, and he sucked butt.
It wasn't Ryan Tannehill throwing interceptions.
Well, no, Derrick Henry cost them weight. Derrick Henry was still worse EPA than Ryan Tannehill. So yeah, stop feeding Derrick Henry. It was bad. They ran in too many neutral situations, constantly put themselves in bad, terrible down distance. Ryan Tannehill did not play great, but Derrick Henry did them zero favors playing in that football game. Zero. That was what was going to happen all day. I will say after that, these four coaches are kind of, I wouldn't say unanimously, but are four of the top 8 considered coaches on offense in sports. And they all work terrible in the championship week. I don't know what Shanahan was doing at the end of the game. McVay ran out of timeouts with like 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Like he just did a bunch of dumb stuff too. Andy Reid obviously probably did the dumbest thing. And then even Pitt Bengals didn't do a great job. There's a common thing. I was listening to this podcast about and one NFL player, and he talked about how teams actually make adjustments, and most don't actually make adjustments at half. They make adjustments near the end of the first quarter because you kind of get an idea. Because it's really hard because they only have about 6 minutes at halftime to really like talk amongst with Chelsea because it's they got to get in the tunnel, do all these other things, get everybody together. So they don't have a lot of time. So during the second quarter, he said they really start developing their adjustments. And then they pass it around. But the 6 minutes when they're in the group together, that's when the coaches meet. They don't have a time to talk to the whole team. They have a very little time to talk to the whole team. They are really quickly be like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then they go back out and they were doing the stuff they already kind of talked about in their individual groups in the second quarter. The Bengals only dropped 8 into coverage like 3 more times in the second half than in the first half. What it really came down to was just Kansas City. But Joe Burrow did what he had to do. Joe Burrow has not actually played super amazing this postseason. He throws like a touchdown a game and throws like 100 or 240 yards. Like that's all he's really been doing. And he gets sacked 12 times. Like he hasn't played great. He's done what he needed to do in the time he needs to do it, but he hasn't played like amazing. But I think what a lot of people are saying has happened is this defense has stepped up. This very middle of the road defense in the regular season has stepped up when they needed it too. And the Kansas City just turned into a high school JV team, and they just needed to get a couple first downs, and they really iced the game. They are the 4th team in NFL history to be up by 11 points or more at any point in a game and lose at home. in NFL history. They, along with the Chiefs a couple years ago when they lost to the Patriots, those are half of the teams are Andy Reid and Mahomes. It's a bugaboo with them. They lost to Cincinnati the same way this year too. They just, and it's not just that team. They just, at certain points, they're so, I think, but Matthew's point is they're so into analytics that Kansas City averaged almost 9 yards a rush in the first half. And then they just stopped doing it because they would drop into 8. And in the first half, Kansas City ran it. In the second half, they just didn't run it into the 8-man boxes. And it's just like, or into the 8-man coverages. They just stopped running it. And it was, I don't know if it's Andy Reid call or Bieniemy call or Mahomes audible at the line, but they just stopped doing it. And they were just beating their head against the wall. So credit goes to the Bengals doing what they had to do. And also, can I shout out the kicker who has literally been perfect this entire postseason? 450 plus yarders, 12 for 12. They kicked 4 field goals a game. Joe Burrow, you got to finish some drives, man. You can't kick 4 field goals against that team with that defense and expect to, or, play like you are against that defense, because unfortunately Kansas City, Tennessee, Oakland, or sorry, Vegas is not, Aaron Donald does not play for any of those teams. Like, you have to start playing better because Aaron Donald, if you give up 9 sacks against Tennessee, this team is going to murder your face. You have to get rid of the ball better, Joe. You have to move. You have to, I am rooting so hard for Cincinnati, but Matthew, I think, is unfortunately right. I think it's a Rams Super Bowl victory here. I hope Kevin's right. I hope like the luck and the magic continues for Cincinnati, but I like a Flacco-esque run, but I just don't know if the magic continues against this team because Sean McVay knows what he's doing. Usually, did not know last week, but and yeah, if they catch that, safety catches that ball, we're looking at a different thing, but he didn't. Those are the bounces we talk about with why Aaron Rodgers hasn't made Super Bowls. One play made or not made, in a 1 game you're done scenario. That's all that matters. So I say the Rams win and cover. Unfortunately, as much as I want to say Joe Burrow smoke a stogie, God, I hate the Rams.
I know. I'm the only person I want to win is Cooper Kupp. That's the only person I want to win.
I don't mind Matthew Stafford putting all his years in Detroit, just getting absolutely abused in Detroit.
Stafford's all right.
But he didn't deserve that. He didn't deserve Detroit. Like, and everyone just questioned him, and he's just like, I'm by myself. like Megatron retired on me. What do I have left?
Yeah, on paper it's the Rams, but doubted Joe Burrow this entire playoffs. Who knows?
Again,
Who knows?
Joe Burrow hasn't played great. Again, I hope he shows up when he needs to and runs away from Aaron Donald. All
right. Well, let us know what you think of the Super Bowl, about the Seahawks, Richard Sherman's comments, as well as Clint Hurt being named defensive coordinator. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Badersko Matt. John's at Sean Beatty. Kev's at Kev's Believe the First Thing Believes being a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Follow our page on the Eli Network. Next week, we will have, I'm sure, more Seahawks to talk about. Kraken will have a few more games, and maybe there's some movement on the MLB front. Who knows? Maybe there might be close to a deal. That's probably the best we can hope for at this point, but who knows? So we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.